Hello everyone. How are we all getting on? Thank you very much. Has everyone enjoyed today? Everyone seen some amazing stuff? All right. Thank you. I need some of that myself this afternoon. So we're going to have a session today talking about how product teams are changing with the advent of AI. And this is something that I've had an absolute front row seat to. So I'm head of design for AI here at Miro. But before that, I was a software engineer. I've dabbled in product as well. I've sat on every single type of team there is in the product world. And right now, I've never been so excited because there is just so much opportunity out there. But I think as part of it, to really unlock that opportunity, and you heard it in the keynote today, we really have to readdress some of our working practices. We've got to think again about the way that we develop our skill sets. Certainly from the design perspective, we're seeing this front on. And then also, we've got to figure out what the relationship is with all of our cross-functional team members. Now, we're really, really lucky today to have an incredible panel of guests with us, design leaders from different areas, different industries, and I would love to welcome them to the stage now so we can dive into this fireside chat. So please welcome Kat, Drew, and Anna. Like Peekay and Anna. Hey, come on, grab a seat. Okay, so we've got Kat, Anna, and Peekay. Kat, could I maybe hand it over to you first to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Kat Drew. I'm the Chief Design Officer at the UK Design Council.
Awesome. Anna?
Hello, I'm Anna, and I head up the product design, research, and service design team at Kingfisher.
And Peekay.
Great. Hi, everyone. Peekay Alpundrick. I'm part of the VML design team, experience design director for VML, which are part of WPP. So we do everything from branding to digital design.
Amazing. So we've got a full spectrum here today. And I think I just want to start by opening it up to you all to understand what you're excited about in AI. What do you see that's changing in the teams that you're working with? And maybe, Peekay, we could start off with you.
Sure. Speed, for sure. I think the need for speed has become greater. I'm not sure we're running fast, why we're running fast, but speed, for sure. I think we're definitely seeing that. We're able to produce things better or faster. I'm not quite sure about better yet. And then the other one is pricing. Clients are certainly asking for things to be done at a lower cost because of economic factors mostly, but I think people are realizing that potentially with AI things can be done differently. So yeah, speed, pricing, and then just the change, I think, certainly I've been seeing in the team, one of my roles is to be looking at process and methodology and tools and how we as a team can use some of the newer tools out there. So always scanning the horizon for these kind of tools. So one of the things we're seeing is the move from individual AI to more team collaborative AI. And certainly one of the challenges we're finding is how do we get people to share the context that they've had with their own conversation with one of their AI tools or an agent, and how to bring that at the team level.
And where are you seeing some of the changes on a day-to-day level as you begin to engage with some of these technologies?
Just recently, I think we've spoken about it. It's the token usage challenge. I think everyone is going to be smiling at that. But yeah, the last couple of weeks we've been having internal discussions and with the client about who pays for the tokens if you keep iterating in this way. So that's a fairly recent example of some of the things we're seeing.
And how about you, Anna? How are you starting to see teams begin to engage with these technologies?
Well, I think similar to Peekay, actually, the speed of change is immense. And we were just saying earlier, just because you can go really fast doesn't mean you have to. And so I think making sure particularly designers' mindsets are in that right place. But we're also finding that because of the amount of tools that are available to everybody and anybody, we all know that probably, and I don't mean to speak out of turn here, but everyone really thinks they're a designer, but not everyone is a designer. And now we've got these tools to amplify that. There's a lot of wannabe designers out there. So I think it's really important that the designer can be that. Gatekeeper's not really the right word, but just be that voice of reason, be that person who understands what good design is out of multiple designs that are being done rather than just one. So it's a big mind shift change. And I still think we're not all there yet, and that's okay. We don't need to be there yet.
I think there's a really important point there that we are at the very beginning of a journey. I think one of the special things that we're seeing here at Miro, especially within our own product teams, is the willingness to share ideas more openly and early and be able to almost like better get them out of your head and onto paper so they're in a better place to share. But you're right, it's difficult sometimes because you can easily confuse that with something that feels very baked when actually it's a 5-minute thing that I've spent a bit of time on.
Yeah, exactly.
And how about yourself, Kat? Because you have a very different perspective than any of us here today. You deal with many, many more industries. How are you seeing AI begin to creep in and change the way that teams are approaching design in particular?
Yeah, so I think there's there's probably a difference between how design is used and then the design industry, because they're not the same thing. But I think, and again, in the last 6 months, there's been a huge, huge change. 6 months ago, definitely, the design industry was quite concerned about AI. Is it going to take my job? What's happening? Now you can see that there has been a much bigger embrace of AI tools by designers. About 80% of designers are using AI in some way in their work. They're using it in their work. So that's good, and I think what we're seeing then is a opportunity for designers to be able to step into and flex their critical decision-making and discernment muscles about what good looks like. So that's on one side. On the other side, I would say, thinking more broadly across how AI is used across healthcare, across hospitality, across retail, across housing, there is a huge need for design, actually more than ever, because we're creating all of this new technology. Agents are going to be making decisions on our behalf, and we need to have design baked into that right from the start for citizens, so it is trustworthy and it is done in a way that promotes equity and sustainability. If we think about kind of different globally, how AI is being adopted by different countries around the world, what is the UK's version of that? In the global south, there is a lot of optimism about bottom-up innovation through AI. In the States, obviously, there's all the tech companies. In the EU, they're taking a very regulatory approach. How can the UK take a design-led approach to AI adoption and have design actually at the heart of it? Now, designers play a big role, but obviously design thinking more broadly plays a role, and I think that's what we're going to get onto in the next questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was one more thing I'd love to kind of touch upon while we're talking about like what's changing in teams, and that's kind of the role of collaboration and how we work together. It's a selfish question because I'm seeing this flex very, very suddenly and in a very positive way, actually. I'm curious, Peekay, maybe if you're willing to share how your teams are changing, how they're working together through the advent of AI.
Yeah, I think it's a great area. We've all been using these AI tools, and for me, it's been fascinating being steeped in the design world for a long time, where you've got this whiteboard canvas style of interaction, which human beings are visual thinkers, and that's what works really well. But over the last 2 years, we've seen text prompting. The terminal has come back, and this is from someone who's used the terminal before, and even green screens at that. And we just seem to have gone back to what I call the tyranny of text, and it's just walls and walls of text. I send you a wall of text, you put it through your machine, you send a wall of text back, and it seems pretty crazy. So that's the challenge we're seeing, is how can we take that thinking, which I think is still quite valuable, using AI as that sort of sparring partner, certainly as designers, flexing that critical thinking muscle, because designers do think about problems in a different way, purely because of their training and their experience. And so going back to the collaboration question, the challenge that we're seeing is how do we bring that thinking out of these tools, as I was saying earlier, onto a common shared space, similar to what you're doing at Miro. But it's not just Miro. There's a number of other tools and places where all these conversations are happening, but how do you bring them so that a team can collaborate and go, that's a great insight you found, I need to share that with you. Here's the prompt that I use, I need to share that with you, here's the findings. That's still a challenge. Yeah.
Anna, I'm curious what resonates of what PK's saying there.
I think collaboration is going to be much more intentional. I think that's the key. I think we all believe we're good at collaborating because we have the right tools to do that. However, because there are so many different tools out there, there'll be lots of different designers in different teams going off, doing amazing stuff, and it'll be awesome, right? It's not bad stuff, but it's bringing these designs back together and having that space where they can be discussed, and so that collaboration for me is a much more intentional collaboration rather than we're collaborating just because we feel like we should, we should all create this design together. So that's really key for me. And then also what Peekay was saying just around designers and flexing their skills. I mean, I am blessed to have a design team that are absolutely amazing and are fantastic problem solvers. Really work really well with the service designers and the researchers. They flex their skills every single day, and I think because of how AI is coming in and changing that design dynamic, those skills are going to be ever more leaned on. And actually, I can see my lovely designer and service designer sitting right in the front.
Give us a wave.
Give us a wave. And and how they work together is brilliant because their skills just merge now, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We just have to recognise that that's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. Are you seeing this more cross-functionally as well in disciplines that typically would have been considered completely different in terms of skill set?
I think so. And I think, we work really closely with product owners and product managers, and they're getting to grips much more with tools that cross over with what the service designers and the researchers are doing. Yeah. And I think as long as we recognise that, and if you're a researcher, you help your product owner use these tools, and you help them to understand, what they can do with them in order to give the researcher perhaps a little bit more time, a little bit more flex in what they're going to do. So it is all about working together, and I know it sounds really cliche, but that's what a good team is.
That's it. And I think as well, we were talking about this earlier on, but with AI, because you can create anything, you can create everything. What should you create? What is the one or two things you should really focus your attention on? And I want to maybe start with you and ask, what are some of the timeless concepts, some of the principles, some of the ways of working, all of that are holding true right now when everything else is shifting underneath our feet?
Yeah. So when you look at some of the research that has been done, surveys of designers, some of the things that designers are saying still need human input are things like, aesthetic polish and judgment. They're basically all the very human things, right? So aesthetic kind of taste and judgment, storytelling, and being able to create things that really resonate with people. So empathy and understanding things from others' point of view. Collaboration and actually building relationships. So tech tools can obviously help collaborate, but ultimately it's two people collaborating together. So I was going to build on your answer, setting the collective vision or the problem that you're all trying to share at the beginning and holding that intent. I think those sorts of things are timeless and critical design. If you think about some of the design processes, at Design Council, we're famous for the double diamond. We've since evolved that into the systemic design framework. But some of the things that are embedded in that are critical thinking, human-centered empathy, collaboration. When you think more systemically, it's about starting a project with values and intent, and whether it's an AI agent who's then designing it or a junior designer, you being the designer, holding people to account for that, and we talked about governance. So I think it's those sorts of things.
Getting those foundations in place.
Yeah.
And Peekay, I know you had some really interesting thoughts on this one as well, especially with regards to the double diamond. I wonder if you'd be willing to share some.
Yeah, we've certainly towards the end of last year, we did a big project with EY. They were looking to take 3 of their internal products and merge them into one product. And so they came to us from a design perspective and said, with AI on the horizon, and certainly they could see the value of that. How can they, if they're going to be redesigning this new experience, how can they bring AI into this experience? And so we actually created quite a, what at the time we felt was a different way of working. Instead of the sort of classic converge, diverge, we got everyone in a room for a week, intensely converging, I suppose, doing that typical discovery phase, but really, really compressed, and then getting all the stakeholders together. Again, this was an 8-week project. We needed to get to an outcome pretty quickly, but being able to use the AI tools, firstly in that early discovery phase, where we're able to get all the documents together and then get some insights from that pretty quickly, and move very quickly from the research into the design phase, and then iterate to diverge again to get to the results. So I feel like it's, instead of those big 2 double diamonds, there's now lots of little diamonds that you can go through, and you can run these experiments now quite cheaply, I suppose, or cheaper than before. Previously, as designers, we had to be quite considered, taking into the account, as designers, our responsibility is to be the voice of the customer, or the voice of the humans now in the case of AI, and really take that understanding, and like Kat was saying, the intent and the empathy through to our design. And so we've really found that the classic double diamond is perhaps not fit for purpose anymore, but I feel still that the converge, diverge aspects are absolutely still valid. So the foundations are valid, but these new tools and capabilities, certainly with AI, means we just can do so much more experimentation faster, get the answers back, and iterate from there.
So one of the things that we're saying a lot to our design teams at the moment is it's exactly on that point. Just because you can compress the ideation process down to, a prototype might have taken 2 weeks or something, you can now do it in a couple of hours and get something that's really impressive. Instead of saying like, okay, great, now we stop there and we move on to the next activity, you use more of that time to diverge more than you ever could before from a cost perspective. And now we can run through many, many more loops. And I love what you're saying there about like there are many smaller diamonds that we run through. Yeah. Curious your thoughts.
Well, yeah, so when I joined Design Council, I did a bit of kind of digging into what had gone before. And actually, the double diamonds, as everyone knows it, the kind of the 2 diamonds was one version of it. There was Cartlidge Divine did an old methods bank, and in it you could see all the various variations of the double diamond that people at Design Council were using. There were triple diamonds, inside diamonds, inside diamonds. There were like 15 diamonds in a row. I mean, it's like whatever you need. I think the point is it's a divergent and convergent process, right? And when I came in, the evolution of it has got a loop around it, recognizing that actually sometimes the prototyping is the research, and I think that's what we're saying. Like now, you start with prototyping as part of the discovery, rather than it having to be the kind of the linear process at the end. So I think kind of be creative with it, but definitely. But what I would also say though is, with all, again, it's back to your speed point. With all the speed that we can do, I don't think there's anything that will ever take away from you as a kind of designer or a product manager or whoever it is, going out and spending time with someone who's got a health condition, or who's homeless, or who has got a particular need to get from A to B, and really experiencing that. It doesn't need to be a 12-week discovery, but putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which is so, even with the best will in the world and all the insights crunched up into some nice insight statements, actually experiencing it yourself. And that is something that actually you can do as a team, and that is a really, really good way to start an exercise, so everyone's on the same page of what is the problem that we are trying to solve, and can feel it in their hearts.
On that note, I'd love to kind of pivot and talk a little bit about the role of design now as that begins to shift. And Anna, I'd love to go back to something you said about the skills blending even among your team. And I'm curious to understand kind of where you're focusing your time and attention, especially as your cross-functional partners are leaning in more and picking up some of those design activities that initially we would have started. Yeah,
and I think things have evolved so much. I think gone are the days where researchers just did research, service designers just did service design, and designers just did design and everyone stays in their own boxes, in their own lanes. I think, and I know from my own team, I've seen a very proactive research team wanting to get the product owners and the product managers to understand how research is done. Doing service design safaris, for example, taking whole teams of into store and trying to solve a problem, finding out what problem you want to solve and then trying to solve it. I know it's not quite the same as seeing someone with a health condition, but it's the concept is the same. Is like staying really close to the customer. And sorry, so I'm diverging slightly, but I think the research team, for example, were teaching the product owners how to do basic research to allow them to sort of accelerate some of their work, because probably like many of you in here, we don't have enough researchers to do all of the research work. And so that freed up the researchers to do the stuff they've been really highly trained for, and that's no disrespect to the designers for doing the sort of more basic, or the product owners doing the more basic research, but actually why would they not do that? It makes no sense, because they're all in the same sphere, they're all heading for the same thing, we all know what problem we're trying to solve, so making sure that everyone is involved in that process feels like a win-win to me. So, and that I feel quite passionately about that. And so sharing your knowledge is really key. And there'll be some people in the team who are super passionate. There'll be some designers who are like, me, tell me more about research, or I want to know more about service design. And there'll be some that are less bothered about that. Let's pick the cheerleaders. Let's pick the ones who are really passionate about it, and set the ball rolling and get the team to be a bit more skilled up. But we're not trying to make designers or product owners researchers, by the way, just to be really clear about that. This is not about everybody suddenly becoming expert in everything. So
I get what you're saying, though. What really resonates with what you're saying is when you take away some of the busy work that we do in any of our different functional silos, whether you're product, you're engineering, you're design, whatever, you can refocus all that attention on the problem solving, which is at the core, and we're all kind of pointing in at that point, regardless of what the hat is that we ultimately wear.
As long as we're set up in the right way, we all know what that problem is that we're trying to solve. If we don't, then we've made a mistake right from the outset, and it will be chaos.
That's it. Peekay, same question.
Yeah, I think more than ever, the role of design now has got incredible focus on it and incredible responsibility. If we are going to be designing these machines to do all sorts of things and eventually autonomously, that opens a whole raft of challenges. And I think as designers and as the design community, absolutely we should be asking all those questions about what's inside the algorithm, why is it making these decisions, before we release this to the wider public, if that's the role you're in. So I feel design is no longer just visual design. Certainly service designers here would appreciate it's the design of the entire experience, be it fundamentally whatever that human being is trying to do, or increasingly now what that agent is trying to do. That agent is going to need to be designed, and then we have all these increasingly more moving parts, I'd say, than ever before.
When we were speaking in the green room, we were talking about things like accessibility, like the design, just like products and engineering, have a responsibility to put the foundations in place. And I think that's a really interesting part of this. Like, how do we become the stewards of what that great practice looks like, even though we're inviting more people into it? I'm curious for all of your thoughts on that. And ultimately, what does great collaboration look like going forward?
Well, I was going to say, stewards is a really interesting word, actually, because I think that's exactly where design needs to go. And this is not a new thing. So think about design thinking from the last 20 years. That was a huge kind of wave of kind of a design mentality, which was expanded to across the workforce. So there's 1.6 million designers in the UK. There's 4.5 million people who use design skills in their work. And that is, partly our job as design council was to do exactly that, was to talk about the value of design and design thinking to businesses, to the public sector, so more people could take a design-led approach, employ designers, and design, by the way, growing the design economy, but so that they could do that. And so then the role of design had to change. But at that time, designers still held prototyping. So kind of everyone else could do the early reframing, problem definition bit, but designers were the ones doing the prototyping. Now AI has changed that. So again, the next question is, what do the designers do now? And I do think it's back to that intent. What does good design look like, and how can we bake that in when we're essentially designing through others, whether that's an AI agent, or it's a junior member of the team, or it's a non-designer working in the legal team who's using designerly methods. And that is therefore setting up really good accountability and governance structures. How can you bake in equity, equality, trust into what you're designing, particularly when you're not going to be actually doing the designing, and how do you make sure that kind of that feedback so that you can check that?
Yeah, I think having a design system has become even more important than it was before. Having those real core foundations for what you're trying to build, because whether it's a designer using the design system or an agent using your design system, they need to be pulling it from that one place, right? And so being able to have the governance as a design team, having the governance of your design system is really important, and having the buy-in and that people use it across the business. It's quite hard, right? I'm just putting it out there. It's really hard, but keep plugging away. Because it's really, really important.
I think it's now, what does good look like? And we've always talked about this as design systems in product design, but everybody's doing it now. Everybody needs to find a way to codify what they think is the right way to do it, to build that trust in whatever agentic systems that we're using, which is exactly what you were talking about, Kat. Peekay, I'm curious on your thoughts. Like, what does great cross-functional collaboration look like at this point?
I mean, I think as humans, we are naturally collaborative. You put a bunch of people in a room, they will collaborate eventually to get to a problem. I think that's the way we're involved. I think it's when we have these layers or barriers in front of, be they tools or other barriers, and then that's, I often tell our design teams, because we end up doing a bit of design, be to solve a problem or create a new app or a new experience. But we also end up redesigning the process often, because we, as designers, are like, this is broken, this doesn't make sense, we need to fix this. So, yeah, I feel it's those designers that will be also, like I think we're concluding, being able to step back now even further and not just be responsible for your design piece, but stepping back and saying that these are the larger strategic things that need to be addressed as well. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, with a couple of minutes left, something a little bit difficult. I would love you to cast your mind forward and make a bit of a prediction on something you're excited about over the next 3 to 6 months or so. Oh, thank you so much. And we've got a poll as well. We'd love everyone to do that. Go for it, yeah.
Well, it's a word that you used, actually. So my kind of question is, like, how can designers flex their more strategic, systemic, critical thinking muscles and actually become stewards of good design in organizations, designing through others?
Nice.
So whilst I'm absolutely embracing AI, mine's slightly less positive, but bear with me. I was having a conversation with one of my team just yesterday about this, and we were saying that if organizations, big organizations in particular, can be quite messy organizations, and so if your design practice or your product practice is not, well maintained, well governed, well structured, then AI is going to show the cracks more than anything. It's going to highlight those. If you are well governed and you are well structured, AI is going to accelerate your practice beyond your wildest dreams, I would imagine. So it's just a watch out more than anything. If you know that you're sitting in a messy team, and probably lots of us are, we probably are, just, it's a watch out. What can we do? How can we make sure that we embrace what's coming to us and then try and fix some of those problems? So it's a
With
prediction.
flexibility.
Yeah, with flexibility,
Love it.
absolutely, and an open mind always.
PK.
Mine is a bit out there, just a bit of a warning. I think tokens are going to be the new Bitcoin. As I've alluded earlier, tokens has been on my mind the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think Anthropic have built an incredible payment system fundamentally underneath the bonnet, if you look at it. So yeah, I think tokens are going to be in all our futures. We might even have a token credit card, who knows?
Love
But
it.
you heard that here first.
All right, I can also see on the responses, can you all see that as well? There's some really interesting stuff coming through. I think what is really clear, though, is there's many, many different ideas. There's many areas where we think that this is going to continue to develop over the next 6 months. I was saying to the panel when we were sat in the green room, my job was different 3 months ago. My job was different 6 months ago, and 9 months before that. I can barely predict week on week the new types of activities that I'm going to be engaging in with the teams. So for me, it's a little bit like what Anna was saying, like that absolute flexibility and willingness to work with whatever comes. I think also, though, you might have mentioned this, that importance of finding ways to be collaborative, even with all of this amazing technology, I think is right where we're at. But thank you very much. Thank you so much, our wonderful panel. Can we get a round of applause? Thank you.